Imagine if a legendary figure from the most interesting historical time periods just pops up in modern day in Japan. We're talking about Koumei, a Chinese military strategist from the era of the Three Kingdoms. In the year 234, this man's life withered away because of an illness. War was all he has seen throughout his life, and so, right as he's about to take his last breath, he lets out a wish that if he was to be reborn, it would be in a peaceful world without war. Just like that, Koumei opens his eyes only to find himself in a Shibuya as a young version of himself right on the night of Halloween. Naturally, he's unaware of where he's actually at. Through the rock music, the hustling and the cosplayer, he comes to a very reasonable conclusion: that he's in hell. He catches the sight of a couple of cosplayers. One of them instantly realizes that he's Koumei, cosplaying Koumei to be precise. While the other is somewhat confused, his friend tells him that Koumei is a military strategist with 100 million IQ. Koumei thinks that they are both minions of hell and then gets taken around by them. Meanwhile, a young singer sights after receiving yet another rejection email. Her name is Eiko and she's about to perform at her employer's bar. Koumei ends up wandering his way into the BB lounge and is taken aback by Eiko's beautiful singing. When she is down at the thought of how nobody might really listen to her singing, Koumei steps up and praises her genuinely beautiful singing voice. He is still under the impression that this is hell and she is a songstress of hell. In the morning, as Eiko is on her way back after a hard night's work, she comes across a passed out Koumei. After failing to communicate properly with him, she takes him to her apartment. He tries to explain who he is, but obviously Eiko doesn't understand, since she hasn't read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Anyways, she helps him learn about the basics of modern day society and also teaches him about technology. Needless to say, Koumei is impressed. Later, she takes him to the bar where she works to see if he can land a part-time job. And quite conveniently, the owner, Kobayashi, just so happens to be a Three Kingdoms fan and recognizes him immediately. They engage in a conversation only they can understand, and he gets the job. When they are both done with the work, Eiko gives Koumei some insight into why she sings. A few years ago, she was almost at the verge of ending it all, but owner Kobayashi saved her and also gave her a place where she can sing. But even so, she has failed every audition she applied for, which is what has gotten her so down recently. She wonders if she has no talent and maybe if it's time to quit. Hearing this, Koumei states that her song has offered salvation for someone and if she quits, her fans would be sad. Eiko thinks she has no fans, but Koumei states that she has one standing right there in front of her. He explains that he has heard her singing twice. His heart trembled and he wants to bring her song to more people. That's why Koumei declares that he'll be her tactician. Be it debuting or gathering an audience of 10,000, Koumei will move heaven and earth to help her achieve her dream. Eiko's eyes light up and she sheds tears as she states that she'll do her best. Her dream is to perform at the world's largest music festival. But things don't look so good when your social media followers aren't even in the 4 digits. However, that's where Koumei comes in. He starts by arranging a meeting with a famous singer named Mia. The intention is to see if Eiko can learn something from her, but of course, Koumei is scheming something. When they meet, Mia ends up offering Eiko the opportunity to sing at the large club. She's excited at first, but it barely takes Koumei any time to see that she'll be performing at the same time as Mia, which means Mia is essentially planning on exploiting Eiko to further strengthen her own audience. Owner Kobayashi is mad about it. Eiko is determined to give her best performance, while Koumei is hatching up a plan. When the time arrives, more and more people start showing up at Eiko's performance. In the end, her concert was a big success, and the vigor of her audience was no less than Mia's. So what happened? Well, Koumei personally manipulated the stage area to first lure in some folks and then make it difficult for them to leave. Naturally, once they heard Eiko sing, they decided to stick around. And that's how Eiko's performance succeeded. Eiko followed suit and delivered an amazing performance. Their efforts bore fruit and she gained over 1,000 followers. But this is just the beginning of the heights Eiko was going to reach thanks to Koumei. Mia is not so pleased. She verbally abuses her manager and tells him to keep an eye on Eiko. But we won't hear about them again for the rest of the series, so that doesn't really matter. Following this, Koumei gets Eiko the opportunity to perform at a local music festival, though once again, she gets the short hand of the stick. Not only does she have to sing on a relatively smaller stage, she'll also be competing with a popular band named Jet Jacket, who'll be singing at the same time as her. Originally, the chances of her concert succeeding aren't looking so good, but she got Koumei. First, he creates a sense of panic by making the competition think that Eiko's equipment isn't working. This gives them an incentive to take it easy and save their energy for the big concert they were going to have the next day. Unfortunately for them, this was just a false sense of security created by Koumei. Of course, he also put in a lot of effort into studying the members of the opposing band and how their lead singer has a sensitive throat. If there is no need, he won't exert himself. As for the result, Eiko's concert was delayed because her equipment was supposedly not working. Jet Jackets continued theirs, but right when the audience wasn't really feeling it, Eiko's stage suddenly lights up, she makes a grandiose opening, and quickly people flock to listen to her. She satisfies the audience with an explosive performance, something that the Jet Jackets weren't giving them. Naturally, the Jet Jackets weren't complete idiots, so they saw through Koumei's schemes. But Koumei had a way with words. He gets them to calm down and then presents a medicine to help heal the lead singer's throat. He isn't really sure if he should take it, but when he does, he is pleasantly surprised at how light his throat feels. He leaves them alone and never appears again for the rest of the series. Afterwards, Koumei is also happy because of Eiko's wonderful performance. She's now much more confident than before. Not to mention, she has also caught the eye of a prominent music producer. This individual just so happens to be a great deal. His name is Tsuyoshi Kondo, and he's well known throughout the world when it comes to music. The man thinks Eiko is cute and praises her singing. He then gives her a choice, whether she wants to perform at a local festival in front of around 10,000 people, or if she'd rather perform at Summer Sonia, a major music festival where around 300,000 people are expected to come and see the performance of young singers. But it also requires the singer to take part in the 100,000 likes project. Unless she gets 100,000 likes on her social media post for the festival, she doesn't qualify to enter. For Eiko, this is a big task since she only has about 1,000 followers. But she knew Koumei would do something, and so she goes with the harder choice. Just like that, Koumei starts his master plan. He starts going out on parties, which stresses out Eiko and owner Kobayashi, since they are still unaware of his plans. In actuality, he was going around searching for a skilled rapper. To that end, he attends a party at Roppongi, this time together with Eiko. And during a deep conversation at a sushi restaurant, she finally shares her biggest dream, which is to sing at Voiceland, a legendary music festival which may consider to be the biggest music festival in the world. Koumei assures her that he'll make her dream a reality. And so Eiko also surprises him with a new song. It was incredible! Following this, we see a young prodigy named Kabe, who stacked victory after victory during his rapping career. But one day, during a rap battle, he collapsed because of an anxiety attack. This caused him to forsake himself, and so he decided to leave rapping behind. But even after doing that, he wasn't getting any better. Just living alone was becoming hard for him. There is also another legendary rapper named Sekitoba who once lost to Kabe. He seeks a rematch, but Kabe no longer has the desire to engage in rap battles. It's too much for him. Though, when he is paying a visit to the local laundry, he comes across Koumei. Things are awkward at first, since, Koumei's mannerisms makes him stand out in an odd way. However, he initiates a conversation and catches Kabe off guard by rapping and then challenging him to a rap battle. If he wins, Kabe will join his band, though if Kabe wins, he'll grant him one wish. Now Kabe is conflicted about whether he should go or not. Rationally, he doesn't think he should go because after all, he has already vowed to not engage in rap battles anymore. But something causes him to at least go and check out the place. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was intuition, but Kabe showed up at the BB lounge. First, he gets himself a drink at the bar. After seeing the hustle for what it was, he decides to go home. That is, until he heard Eiko sing. Her song struck a chord in him. He started to reminisce of the time he discovered the thrill of rapping. When Eiko is done, Koumei appears at the stage, and before Kabe could leave, he publicly challenges him to come on the stage. You could say that Kabe was practically pressured. A legendary rap battle begins between a young prodigy and a genius military strategist. Sekitoba was also among the spectators, and he was more or less explaining the battle to Eiko as it went on. Kongming was every bit of a tough opponent as you can expect him to be. At one point, he was even overpowering Kabe. But when Kabe's passion for rapping fully recovered, he was the one who won. Kongming gracefully admits defeat, while Sekitoba leaves with a smile on his face. He's glad that his rival has finally returned to the scene. Then came the time where Kongming was supposed to grant Kabe's wish. Kabe says that he has come back to the rapping stage, and so his wish has already been granted. He also decides to join them. Now you know Kongming. His 100 million IQ was obviously at work here. Since before Kabe entered the BB lounge, everything has gone according to his plan. His spy figured out Kabe's favorite song, which he then asked Eiko to sing. And the drink that Kabe had at the bar had stomach medicine already imbued in it to combat Kabe's anxiety. Kongming had his way by giving Kabe what he wanted. Alright, now that the rapper has joined their ranks, what's next? Kongming decides that it's finally time to share his plan for the 100,000 likes project. Their greatest competitor is an all-girls band named Azalea. It's a big deal because a major agency has been backing it. But since they can't possibly compete when it comes to advertising budget, they'll make their post for the project just 3 days before the deadline. This gives everyone their usual anxiety injections, but Koumei was serious. Until that promised day, he asked Kabe to have his rematch with Sekitoba, and also arranges Eiko's meeting with an international level DJ named Steve Kiddo. The goal is for Eiko to get her new song recorded by him. This is serious because if she fails, Koumei has given Kid his word that he'll become his tactician instead. Anyways, Kid asks Eiko to sing a song and she decides to go with Maria Diesel's I'm Still Alive, as that is one of her favorite songs that also inspired her to become a singer. Even though she sings it perfectly, he says that she isn't there yet. She has to find her own voice first. Just like that, she's outside, frustrated and wondering what she should do. But as fate would have it, she comes across a young street performer named Nanami, who then later sings I Am Still Alive for her. Eiko is greatly surprised by her voice. She becomes her partner for street performing. This also helps Nanami out since she didn't have a permit and the police were about to bother her. Kongming does a little fortune telling and sees a sign which implies sworn friends. The following day, Eiko and Nanami meet as planned, but she is kind of in a mental turmoil because she has to please that DJ and she pales in comparison to Nanami. When she's back at the BB lounge, she sings together with Kabe, who has also having trouble coming up with lyrics. In the end, she advises him to return to his roots, and so he decides to go back to his old hometown, the place where he learned rapping together with his buddies. His buddies are genuinely pleased to see him. He's a celebrity after all, but even so, they make sure to make him feel at home. Eiko and Nanami, on the other hand, spend time together. They go eat and they visit a bathhouse where they sing together. Nanami starts helping Eiko out in her search for finding her own voice. It goes on like that for a few days until finally Eiko feels ready to go back to Kid in order to prove herself. Meanwhile, Nanami receives a not so pleasant phone call and has to leave. She appears as if it was against her will. As it turns out, she's part of the all-girls band Azalea, and the call was from her manager. She gets scolded for not respecting the schedule and for street performing, which he then forbids her from doing again. Subsequently, Eiko sings in front of Kid once, but even though she has improved, he tells her that she still hasn't found her voice. Once again, she was frustrated and wanted to vent. so she goes to a popular rooftop named Skydeck together with Nanami. Kouming had already prepared the tickets because he saw it coming a mile away. There, things take a few unexpected turns for Eiko. Nanami finally tells her that she is the lead singer for Azalea named Nanami Kwon. Then comes her story. Back when she was in high school, she and her two friends created the band called Azalea. They weren't successful, but at least they were happy. But after countless failed concerts and endless part-time jobs, they just couldn't keep up their uplifting energy like usual. Finally, Nanami decided to seek out the help of a producer who had already scouted them before. His methods are sketchy since they involve showing skin and focusing on enticing body movements. But if that was what's going to help them be successful, then so be it. As for the result, they did actually become successful thanks to those methods, but unfortunately Azalea isn't about music, it's about fame and profit, and nothing more. Now Eiko empathized, but the way she communicated those feelings was through her voice. She finally did it. She sings "I'm Still Alive" in her own voice and makes Nanami shed tears. But even so, it's already too late for her. There's way too many people involved, she'll just have to bear with it. Nanami bids farewell and telling Eiko that the next time they'll come face to face, it will be as rivals. However, Eiko can't help but state that she wishes to sing with her again someday. Naturally, Nanami feels the same. When Nanami leaves, Kouming shows up. He praises Eiko for finding her own voice and tells her that it's about time they move on to the next stage of the plan. And then Eiko finally gets Kid's thumbs up. He's ready to create a new arrangement for her song. Meanwhile, Nanami continues on with her own preparations for the project. She is definitely conflicted about everything, even more so when the producer tells them that they will be performing a surprise concert in the middle of Shibuya, where they will give out a 1,000,000 yen prize to a lucky audience member who will like their post. Nanami's friends, and of course she herself, are uncomfortable at the idea of essentially buying likes, but she knows she can't oppose the producer. Kabe, on the other hand, is also ready to finally face Sekitoba once again. The match begins soon and the audience is about as hype as one can get. Neither Kabe nor Sekitoba let up and the audience just can't have enough of it. As for the winner, Sekitoba was happy that his rival was back, he knew he had lost, and so he himself declared Kabe as the winner. Finally, Kid is done with the preparations, and so Eiko, Kouming, and owner Kobayashi make their way to the studio. Eiko carefully listens to the arrangement Kid has created and literally gets goosebumps. And so Kid lost the bet against Kouming and won't have him as a strategist. As for Eiko, she suddenly experiences a quick recap of all the events that have unfolded ever since Kouming became her tactician. And so she puts everything into the new song. The impact was so majestic that Kouming practically relives his memory of the time he first met and swore loyalty to Liu Bei. When he snaps back, he remembers his lord's words. It was Liu Bei who brought him on the journey of peace after all. Kouming is indeed planning on realizing that dream through Eiko's singing. Before long, the promised day arrives. They have already relayed the news of the 1,000,000 yen prize, by the way. It's the same day as when Azalea will hold their surprise concert in Shibuya. Eiko and Kabe did a lot of practicing in the last few days. As for Eiko's new song's name, she decided to name it Dreamer. Little did Azalea know, Kouming was about to beat them at their own game by using them as a scapegoat. Eiko and the others arrive at the concert spot a little bit before Azalea does, and they display their own QR code on the truck. Since most of the people who had come were there for the money, they simply mistook Eiko's and the others for Azalea and started scanning the code. Nobody knows how they mixed them up. Of course, with each scan, Eiko's likes rose little by little. By the time the audience realizes that they aren't Azalea, they have already stacked up around 70,000 likes. But the real competition begins from here on out. The moment Azalea arrives, they sway the attention of the audience with their performance. But when Nanami realizes that the other band is Eiko's, she starts feeling uneasy. Kouming gets Kabe to provoke Azalea with a brutal rap song, where he calls them out for being fake. At the same time, there were Kouming's men hidden amidst the audience who were telling them that this other Azalea is also fake. This sadly puts a stop to Azalea's like count and it completely halts at 98,000. Because that is how social media works. Then comes Eiko and her new song, Dreamer. Initially, she is booed by the audience, but Nanami herself steps up to ask the crowd to be quiet for a minute. Her intervention gives Eiko the opportunity to sing, and so she sings. With Kid's arrangement and her voice, the audience is entirely silenced. Little by little, with each passing second, she begins to captivate the hearts of everyone in the audience. Her singing, once again, moves Nanami and even her friends. And just like that, the likes start rising in her favor again. Azalea producer doesn't like what he's seeing, and so he decides to make the girls sing their unreleased song right then and there. But Nanami ignores him. Eiko's singing managed to inspire the once lost Azalea. They took off their masks and let out tears as they look towards the future. Kid was also nearby, and he was the one who added the 100,000th like. And with that, Eiko earns herself a spot at Summer Sonia. Azalea had indeed lost this one, but they still decided to go on and perform in front of their audience. Not the song the producer always had them perform, but one of their original songs. They put their hearts and soul into it, and so they as well managed to sway the hearts of the audience. Unbeknownst to them, Koumei had decided to put this performance online. People liked it, the internet liked it, and so Azalea crossed the 100,000 likes milestone. This helped them prove to their producer that they can indeed find true fans, the ones who wouldn't need to be baited by money just to come to their concert. Later, there is a victory party for Eiko at BB Lounge. Koumei comes face to face with Azalea's producer. He reveals how the man in question was also once an inspiring musician, but his own bandmate betrayed him. The producer stops Koumei before he could say more, but Koumei knows that the producer has always been aware of Azalea's talents. He just didn't want him to fail like he himself did. Unbeknownst to him, the girls overheard the conversation. They then show up and express their wishes to continue working with him as their producer. Finally, Eiko and Koumei have a conversation. She thanks him for being her tactician, while he thanks her for providing him with a purpose that doesn't involve war. And then, before the anime ends, Koumei has a short monologue where he reveals that the first volume of his grand plan to help Eiko achieve her dream is now complete. And that's where the season ends. Thanks for watching, drop a like and subscribe for more.